Hey, one of the things that came up this week in talking with a prospect is how do I put out content online that really allows me to have a conversation, a frequent conversation with my prospects so they can get to know me, build a relationship, and eventually get them to where they become a client. And this person really recognized that there are certain different prospects within her audience. And it kind of goes back to Eugene Schwartz, one of the famous copywriters out there. One of his key books is called Breakthrough Advertising. And in that book, he talks about how there's different stages of awareness among your audience, among your prospects. And throughout that, you're going to have people that are ready and willing, and they know what their problem is. They know the solutions that are out there. They know that you're the right person for them because they've been following you, because they know what you're all about, and they've kind of made that connection. So they're ready to buy. So all they really need is just a little something to get them over the edge, that's going to help them out. But as you go along, you kind of learn that there's certain other people on the other end of the spectrum that they don't even realize they have a problem. They don't realize the solutions that are out there, and you have to really educate them on the opportunity that they have. Again, they might be just living with a problem for a long period of time. Think about kind of a health issue that you might have had for 10 or 15 years. A good example for me is I had sleep apnea for a long period of time, and for me, I always viewed it as you're either a good sleeper or you're not a good sleeper. And I was just one of those that wasn't a great sleeper. But finally, I got to the point where it got so bad that I visited a sleep doctor, and he gave me kind of the tools to, kind of deal with that sleep apnea. I slept with a kind of, one of those sleep machines for a long period of time that really improved my sleep. It allowed me to kind of lose weight. And I can say now that I sleep way better than I do probably ever in my life, going back 10 or 20 years. And it's kind of changed my life. But again, that was one that I didn't even know that I had that specific problem, that there were solutions out there, and I can move my way forward. So obviously within your audience, there's going to be people in between that maybe recognize that they have a problem, but they don't know about your solution yet, or that you're the right person to work with. So that's how you kind of have to move along people in your advertising and think about it in that way. So I want to kind of just mention an example of somebody that does this really well. Week after week, having a conversation with his prospects and his clients to kind of share and demonstrate his expertise, but also move people along whatever stage that they are. So his audience is those entrepreneurs that are just starting to think about their business, or maybe haven't even gotten there yet. It's also experienced entrepreneurs that have been through it and thinking about how they can improve their marketing and move forward and kind of scale their business. And then he's also working with the top offer owners out there that are doing really well, and they're just looking for a few tips and tricks to make their already good offer or their presentation even better. So, across his audience, he has all those different awareness and problems and solutions that are out there. And he does a really great job of continuing that conversation, getting in front of his entire audience week after week so that they recognize his expertise, so that when they are ready to take on his solution. So he does various different offers throughout the year, various different launches to introduce scarcity and urgency to get them to make a decision. But along the way, he's making sure that he's staying top of mind, that he's educating people, that he's showing his expertise and giving value all throughout the year, even if he doesn't have something to sell. So I just wanted to show you just quickly how he does it week after week. He uses a video blog at this point. He did previously, if you go back 10 or 15 years, he just did a written blog, but he's moved over to just a video blog. So I'm just going to show you how he does that across various different mediums. And this is really what I suggested to my prospect as well. So number one, starting with video, it's a great way for people to develop a relationship with you. They can kind of see and hear, get to know your personality a little bit better. What are those specific words and phrases that you use? What are your nuances? It just allows people to get to know you. Think about somebody you talk to on the phone versus something that you met in person or via Zoom. You tend to know that person via video, or get off the phone with that person at the end of that video chat, knowing that person a little bit better versus somebody on the phone where you just hear their voice and you don't see their facial expressions or things like that. So if you're comfortable on video, again, for a lot of people, it takes a lot of practice. For me, it took going through kind of a 30-day challenge of being on video every single day to kind of get through a lot of that fear and anxiety around it. But once you do get through it, it kind of becomes your superpower, because a lot of people are terrified of being on video. So most of your peers and competitors aren't going to be on video. So just being and showing up every single week with video is going to set you apart even before you utter a single word or do anything. So, thinking about what is your unique selling proposition, again, just showing up and being able to do video every single week on social media and elsewhere is going to set you apart, again, before you even say anything. And then just making sure that your content is being viewed and is available to your audience in broad platforms. So with this prospect, she was only putting out content on LinkedIn. And I asked the question, is that where your audience really hangs out? Do you know that, that's the best place to put your content? And her answer was really, no, I don't. But that's kind of where I'm starting out. And I kind of suggested to her, like, whatever content you're putting on LinkedIn, let's start putting it on other areas. Let's put it on Medium so people can, it'll show up on a Google search. Put it on your website so that helps with your SEO. Let's put it on Facebook as well, because your audience is probably on Facebook as well. She kind of focused on kind of those business owners. So I know they're on Facebook. So let's put whatever content you're doing on LinkedIn. You're already doing it already. So let's just kind of multiply that across different platforms and get as much exposure as possible. And you never know, over time, you'll get a good sense of, okay, most of my prospects are becoming clients and they're really finding me on this specific platform. So that's where I can be a little bit more specific, and that's where I'll spend the majority of my time. And that's great. But you can see, and I'll show you how Jeff does it as well. He wants people to go to his website, but he's also using Facebook. He's also using YouTube. I haven't checked it, but I'm sure he's on LinkedIn or thinking about LinkedIn as well. The idea is to kind of leverage your time as much as possible, leverage the content that you're putting together, and put it, give yourself the best chance to get as many eyeballs and kind of continuing that conversation across different platforms. And again, as you get to know people and where they're hanging out online and where those ideal clients you really want to work with, that's where you kind of be a little bit more focused and specific about that. But if you're just starting out and starting this process of trying to be consistent, let's try and multiply and leverage your time and leverage your efforts as much as possible, and do it across platforms, and give people the chance to find you via Google search or various different platforms in the way that it's out there. So let's just take a look at Jeff Walker's stuff. I'm just going to minimize myself a little bit. So what he does in terms of his blog is he chooses a specific topic. This one is all about $1 Million Mindset, the 4 traits that he's kind of thought through. It's a really short video that he has here. If we can kind of take a look at it, they tend to be 4 to 5 to 6 minute videos. So really short, getting out kind of one key idea that he's thinking about. In this, he kind of breaks it down into 4 different traits that he's going through, and he's kind of just sharing his expertise. So he's been in the business for 25 years now. He obviously has a lot of experience. He's made a lot of mistakes. But even if you're just starting out, you have that background and experience that you can share with your audience as well. You're giving people an ability to get to know your personality, what you're all about, what are some of your beliefs and philosophies. So a great way to kind of just go out there and share some of that. So keep it to very simple, one key big idea that you're going to talk about, and you can obviously have sub bullets behind that, but one key idea that you're all about, and that makes kind of the entry to it a lot easier as well. So what Jeff does is really kind of just a few sentences to heighten your curiosity a little bit about what the video is all about. Why should you watch it? What are some of the benefits of that? Just to arouse your curiosity enough that you hit that play button over time. And again, Jeff is very consistent. Consistency, especially when you're first starting, is really important. That you're showing up almost like a TV show for people. They know on that same date and that same time, they're going to get some content from you. And in that consistency of that, they're going to get to know you really well. And if you think about a prospect, they tend to need about 5 to 7 touch points before they're ready to become a buyer of your product or to sign up for something. So how can we get to those 5 to 7 touch points as quickly as possible? It's all about kind of being consistent and getting in front of them, not only with your blog, but there's also other ways. So you can get them on your email list and get other additional touch points there. They might see some of your stuff on YouTube and see other stuff on Facebook. So as you're building up this library of content, that's a great way to allow people, get in front of multiple people on multiple different ways and build your, build your following in that way. So if we take a look at Facebook, so what does some of the other videos look like on Facebook? Again, very similar process. Here's a little bit longer for this video. But again, he's just kind of building up some curiosity. What is he going to say in those first few lines to get you to watch that video? Kind of very similar to a subject line in an email, kind of reference that in some recent videos. But how can we increase the curiosity, talk about the benefits of watching this video without kind of giving it all away so that you're ready to kind of go down and hit that play button right away? And again, he's not pushing you to YouTube to watch the video. You can watch it right here, makes it really simple. Again, his call to action, and this is really important for each of your content every single week, is have some type of call to action. For Jeff, it's at a minimum going to jeffwalker.com/blog and leaving a comment there. But you can also leave comments here in Facebook. And I think that's one of the key things that Jeff does really well is kind of encouraging that participation. Like, if you watch this video, can you give me a comment below? He's going to ask a specific question as well in certain videos where you can kind of go through and start that dialogue with your prospects and customers. And if you start that conversation in the comments on your website, in YouTube, you get a sense for what do your customers and prospects really care about. What is the things that you said that resonated with them? And that kind of, that gives you a whole long list of other ideas that you can go on. And you can start using the words and phrases that your prospects are really using. So you can, speak directly to the words in their head, what they really care about. And that's how you kind of create content that kind of continues to grow. That's how you get the followers that are very consistent, because you're talking about the things that they really care about. You're not just going in and trying to guess what they think about. In those comments, in those conversations that you're having every single week, you get really targeted onto, what is the conversation that they're having in their head right now, whether it's around the holidays or something like that, how are they feeling about their business, and you can kind of give them direct content that is going through out there. So if you're just starting out, one of the key things that I would suggest is if you haven't started this conversation already, but you want to do some research about what your audience really cares about, is go into some of those online forums and get a sense for, okay, what are the key questions that my audience is going through? What are they asking within Reddit or other areas that are in, if you take a look at Google and kind of think about what are those specific search terms that your audience is really typing into that. That's a great way to do that. On YouTube, figure out who are some of your key peers and competitors. What topics are they putting out there? What is really resonating with your audience from a view perspective, from an engagement perspective, and start to think about, okay, here's a list of topics that seem to be working really well. Let me start with those, so you have a good foundation and a process for going forward. And as you go out there and test and find out what's really working well, you can obviously pivot from there, but at least you have a grounding of what your audience really cares about and how you can go forward with that. So I went through this. One thing I also want to go through in terms of YouTube. So, here again, he comes up with and kind of the titles kind of remain very similar, but from a YouTube perspective, here's where I'd kind of offer a few improvements for how Jeff can kind of put out his content. And here's where, as you look at across various different platforms, you have to be very specific in terms of how you can best get in front of the biggest possible audience and get the most from the content that is out there. So YouTube's a little bit different in terms of relative to Facebook or LinkedIn, where some of those shorter videos work really well. On YouTube, you tend to want a little bit longer videos, but not always. But the key thing here is having a title that really matches up with some of the search terms that your audience is really typing in. So here, Jeff is kind of using that same title across the various different platforms, but if you use a little bit more SEO heavy title, you can kind of just make a different nuance on this to kind of maximize the amount of people that are searching for some of these terms would really help. And the other thing is in terms of his video tags. So, if you think about kind of the description here, but also in terms of the video tags as we go down. So here's his video tags. Where again, he's putting hashtag a certain term, and that really doesn't match up with what Google is trying to do. There's no real hashtags in terms of video tags, so it's really typing that in with a comma and punching that in there. And for Google and YouTube here, the key thing is video tags. Just give them awareness of where to characterize your video. So if you create a video on a certain topic, they want to have a long list of video tags of all the things that you covered within that video, so they can attach that to the search results that are out there, what type of people are typing in, so they can put you in the right place. So if you're not giving them enough information, in this case, in this video, Jeff is not giving them enough information or the right information to put his video in the right place. It doesn't maximize the amount of views that you're going to get. So again, Jeff has 40,000 subscribers on YouTube, so he's always gonna get a good amount of views that are coming through, but he can maximize that exposure by being a little bit more specific in terms of those video tags, typing in, doing some research, using a tool like Keywords Everywhere, and kind of lining that up with what people are searching for, making sure his content lines up with that, and whatever video tags he has here, making sure that it's somewhere in the video description here. So that's how YouTube kind of thinks about it, in that video description, matching it up with the tags. They also have a way of kind of going through and listening to the words within your video as well. So making sure that whatever is in the video tags is relevant to the video. You've actually said it in the video along the way. And that gives YouTube kind of the all the ammunition it needs to put you in the search results. And again, if you're talking about content that your audience really cares about, you're going to be top of those search results again and again and again. And if you're talking about those search terms that your audience really cares about on a consistent basis, so again, if you're creating content every single week and you're covering those topics that your audience really cares about, that's going to build your authority position within the YouTube algorithm. They're going to move you up within the search results. They're going to be more likely to recommend your content to other YouTube viewers that are outside of your subscriber base. And that's one of the reasons that, again, he has 40,000 subscribers, but he easily could be at 100K or more if he just did these little nuanced things that are more platform specific, and they take a little bit more work, but gives him much more broader reach of what's out there as we go along. But I had to just kind of use this as a good example of, again, relevant to this prospect that I was talking about this week, thinking about just starting out in terms of her organic content, creating that relationship with her audience, continuing that conversation. What's the best way to do that? Thinking about putting your content across various different platforms, making sure that your content, doing a little bit of research to make sure that you're speaking about the right things. And then relative to the platforms that you're putting on, specifically YouTube in this example, what are the different nuances to make sure that my videos are getting out to the broadest possible audience? And as I do that very consistently, how do I build those raving fans and turn them into prospects? One of the key reasons, key ways to do that now is making sure that every piece of your content has a call to action and that you're talking about the right things. Thanks.